What's the name?
It's good race.
Hey, everybody. Stan and Angela, it's Sunday morning,
Yes, it is.
and we want to welcome you to Spiritual Discoveries. And what we try to do on Spiritual Discoveries is we try to, throw out some ideas for everybody to reflect on in hopes that we'll have some spiritual discovery. And we'll throw out basically maybe some spiritual discoveries that we've discovered so that they'll be a benefit to you. And hopefully you'll have some spiritual discoveries that you can throw back to us so that we can become more awake and more aware. And so today, me and Angela were thinking about it, and we thought what a great topic would be was oneness, And we know we hear that a lot, oneness, and I know when I was in my religion of 40 years, Jehovah's Witnesses, we did not like the word oneness. Oneness was worldly. Who wants to be oneness with the world? We're separate from the world. We're better. We're right, more right. We have the truth. They don't. They need to die. And we were in a sense in a oneness, but we were in a oneness based on our religious idea. And the sad thing about the oneness that we were both engaged in, Angela being Worldwide Church of God, was that we were right. Everyone else had to go. I mean, in my religion, it was genocide. It was literally genocide to anyone who didn't call in the name of Jehovah. Only those who called in the name of Jehovah would be saved. So in a sense, we were in the oneness of that idea that everyone had to die but us. And since then, I've traveled and I've looked at a lot of religions, and it's very similar. They don't say the word genocide. They just say destruction. Jesus is going to come and take everybody to heaven, and everyone else is going to be left over to kill each other, or however it works, or an angel comes in or something.
And honestly, every religion, we've studied them all of them. And I think you start seeing the same thread. It doesn't really matter where you go. If you're not signed in the registry of the Catholic Church, you're not a Mormon signed in their registry. If you're not a Seventh-day Adventist signed on as a member in theirs, and you're not abiding by these laws in the Worldwide Church of God and obeying the law the way they interpret it, you won't make it into the kingdom. And every single one has their list of things that unless you're this, you're not one of us, and you won't make it into wherever they consider to be paradise, heaven, the kingdom, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, I don't know about you, but it gets really old that I have to always be concerned about, well, oh, that person's not one of us. He's not keeping the Sabbath day, or he's not baptized, or a Catholic and in their Catholic registry. It's like always something wrong, right? Or you can't accept that person. You can't hang out with them. You can't love them. You can't accept them. You can't, I'm so effing tired of that.
Yeah. And I had what Angela's saying is so true, because I had a tremendous dose of that. I've been a witness for 40 years. We rejected everybody.
Yeah.
If you didn't believe our faith, we disowned you. If if we looked outside, it was like those are all dead people standing. We would say they're dead people, walking dead, living dead. Yeah, and we were like, wow, and. But what happened was one day an idea came. I asked the governing body, which is the head of the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're the ones who they say Jehovah placed there to give them their spiritual food, to teach them and all this stuff. So there's this governing body of eight people. It's probably more than that, but it was 8 people. And they would tell us, what to think, how to feel. Well, one day I questioned them. One day I just asked a very simple question, because I had been preaching for 40 years. And the one that I was really heavily preaching in was the generation prophecy, which was 70 or 80 years after 1914, the world was going to end. Before that, the prophecy was 1975. So my dad was in the 1975 one very heavily. And then I was in the generation prophecy. And anyway, it started to pass. This 70, 80 year period, which was in the late 80s, started to pass. And so I thought I would just ask one of the elders, hey, are we passing one of those days?
One of these prophecies.
One of these prophecies. And they looked at me like a deer in the headlights, and they reported me to the governing body. And they said, we think something's going on with Daniel. And what was actually happening to Daniel was starting to think. Daniel was starting to think, I invested in this.
Yeah.
I invested time in this, and I did this. And so when I did, they put me on apostate watch, and something came and said, whoa, this is all wrong. I can't question these men. And so what's interesting was I popped out of it. I ended up leaving and putting in my letter, and I left. And when I popped out of it, I got I thought that was it. I thought, God, I'm free. And yeah, I'm going to go out there and I meet Angela, and she's got this big family. And the next thing you know, it was all the same thing again. It was all religion again. It was all, he don't believe like us. He doesn't believe in the Sabbath. He doesn't believe in the holy days. Her father, same thing. It was Sabbath. It was all this stuff. And
Seventh-day Adventist,
they wouldn't
yeah.
accept me. It was like, I was like, holy shit, I thought it ended at Jehovah's Witnesses, right? That was my limited thinking, right? My little mind. And it didn't end. And I thought, I was like, Angela, I became sick of separation, sick of, I've said this lately a lot. We're all breathing the same air. If you go up in space and look down at Earth, you see a bunch of dumbasses, us. You look down and you say, God, imagine if you're God, you're like, okay, I knitted you all together in the womb. I'm looking down, they're all breathing the same air. They're all eating out of the same ground, out of the dirt. They're all returning and coming back from the dirt. They're all drinking the same water. I'm making the waters run the stream, and they all think they're different. They're all separate. They all think they're right. They all got to be right, and they'll kill to be right. And so the question came up, and the thought that came up for me and Angela was, how do we get to oneness? How do we get it through to people, or how do we become a part of the answer to get it through to people that we're all the same, that deep down we're all the same. We're a spirit in a body that came from somewhere. It came from somewhere. We weren't in our mother's womb in a body. We were in our mother's womb as a spirit from somewhere, from some dimension. But whatever happened, it was an immaculate conception. God had to make it happen. We did not birth ourselves. We think our parents birthed us, but the real thing is the bigger picture. If we look beyond the seed and the sperm and all that, it was like, wait a minute, where was this sperm, or where was this seed that was out here somewhere that was all of a sudden placed in a woman with a bunch of other seeds? And why was I chosen to come forth at this time? And that's a big question. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, well, and just the fact that, I might have been born in India, where, you might be Hindu, born to a Hindu mother, and, she was raised that way. And of course she's going to teach you that way. But who, like we're always saying this, I know, but who knitted me, if I was that Hindu child, in my Hindu mother's body? Who knitted me together? Hey, Carrie Kay, how are you doing? You're on mute. We can't hear your voice, but somehow you're on mute. We're not hearing you.
Good morning.
There you go.
Good
There
morning.
you go. So we started a smidge early, but just talking about just trying to figure out this oneness. And so right now we're talking about how when you're in mother's womb, you're in India, your mother's a Hindu, and she's just you've been baking in her stomach, and you come out a Hindu. And it's like it says in the scriptures anyway, that we were knit together in our mother's womb and in secret by God. So if God only loves the Christian or the Buddha or whoever, then why would he also knit me together in a Hindu mom's womb? It's like that woman didn't do that. But it said that God knit us together in secret in our mother's womb. I really do believe that to be true. So and then here's another thought too I've had, is that the first known religion is Hindu. So was God not with those Hindu people? Because that was the first known religion. There was not Christianity back then. So or someone else said shamanism really kind of came on the scene with this. That's known before that. So did God not love those people? And so you start asking all these questions, and, being sick to death of me and Dan having been in all these different religions and spending a good bit of time in each and every one of them, and seeing that each and every one is hell bent on division. And, Jesus, I was just thinking about that. Jesus even said that, Father, I pray that they would become one as we are one. And so oneness is the goal, but how are we going to get there if, it's divide and conquer in order everywhere, and every religion is dividing and part of the dividing and conquering, because we're all under control of men. And, it says, put your trust not in mortals, nor in the sons of earthly men, in whom no salvation belongs. But yet that's what we do, because we don't know better, because we've always been trained this way since birth. But when are we going to say, enough is enough? I'm not putting up with this anymore. I will not. Jesus said, I pray that they be one as we are one. And, it also says in Jeremiah 31, that the days are coming when no longer will a man say to another man, know the Lord, for they're all going to know the Lord, from the greatest to the least. And then later on, and it says that, and I myself will teach them. I myself will teach them. I wonder why that is. Hypocrites, you load people up with burdens. You don't lift a finger to the burden. You don't enter into the kingdom yourself, and you prevent those who are trying from entering into the kingdom. I wonder why God said, I myself will teach them. Isn't that interesting? Duh. Because men take advantage, because they are trying to have power over other men. It's just what men do. But maybe we could have our own minds and say, you know what, you put your pants on the same way I do, you poop the same way, you have the same bad habits I do, you're not any effing better than me, you just act like you are and you think you are. Bull, fucking, not bull, I'm not buying it anymore. I'm not buying it. So anyway, that is my take.
So yeah, so that's what we're doing today, is we're talking about oneness. What's your ideas on oneness? We're suggesting, like we talked about earlier, we grew up in religions where we were divided. We were the only ones, it was genocide, to anybody who wasn't a witness. Only those who called the name Job was saved. So Angela's religion was very the same worldwide. Christianity's pretty much the same, that they're going to be taken to heaven and people on earth are going to kill each other or whatever. There's lots of different theories. But we were wanting to entertain the idea of what are some suggestions as to the possibility that we could invite that idea of oneness and possibly make some headway, because we see what's happening in the world. There's divisions, now there's the big divisions with the, transgender, and a lot of people are returning to the churches. They're linking transgender with the world falling apart because we don't have the church. And so it's like church and government are working together. The government is allowing this to happen in the schools. The transgender people aren't pushing that people should all accept their way. They're not all out there dancing in bikinis in front of your kids with thongs on. And and we got to be rescued. We gotta get back to Christianity. It's a huge psyop. The gay people are wishing it would stop. The majority of gay people that I know are like, what in the hell's going on here? We're not dancing in front of our kids in bikinis. It's a psyop. It's the churches are falling apart, church and state. I had a guy say the other day, everyone's returning to the church now. The
And they're
church now.
building churches everywhere.
But you're using the gays as a reason to refill the church, because people are hating. There's hate now toward these people that are different for whatever reasons that maybe we don't understand. But we don't hate them. But now there's literal hate. This guy says, man, more people are coming back in the church. We got to turn it back to Christian United States, which it never was. It was in God we trust. It was never in Christian we trust. It's not a Christian
country.
Country. It was in God we trust. Everyone was supposed to be here and worship as they will. It was freedom of religion.
There you go.
Not bound in Christianity. So I think what was interesting for me, my spiritual discovery, was when I came out of Jehovah's Witnesses, I saw all the boxes. I saw a million more boxes just like my own. That was a spiritual discovery. I said, oh my God, it doesn't end with my religion. It's in this religion and that religion and that religion. And so anyway, I'm seeing this thing happen now. And I'm seeing us get more divided over everything. We're divided over politics. We're divided over, this transgender thing. The only reason the transgender is going on, this transgender in the schools, is because the government is allowing it. It's not happening for no other reason.
No,
and it's not that community that's promoting it.
No.
It's our government that's promoting it. I am so sorry to say. And my daughter was saying, oh, they're down in the park dancing in front of the kids and reading them porn. The government is allowing this shit. It's not those people, but we're going to genocide and hate those people because,
It will get us to go back to the churches because we don't want,
yeah,
our society to go down like that. But the truth
that's
is,
just my thought. I
Yeah.
think it's a psyop,
I do too. I don't think the transgenders are doing
and
that.
I think they're going to
Those
have
are
to pay
hired
the
people.
price. They use them all the time. But, I have to say, the miracle that happened to me was that I was able to escape, and I know Angela was, and I know Carrie Kay was. We were able to escape a made-up mind.
Let's see
My
what-
mind was made up
let's see what
of
she's got there.
BS. Did you want to say something, Carrie Kay?
Yeah.
I'm just throwing.
Oh, I'm just listening to you guys at this point. Very interesting. One thing that I would pull together was the founding fathers. They all, when they went to their deathbed, they didn't even have a priest. And they were our founding fathers.
Yeah.
And they set up the secularism, which was the separation between church and state. So, but did they have a belief? They probably did, but they kept it private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Sis,
And
that's
one of
right.
them I know on his deathbed, one of the guys was trying to get him to be a Christian. And he said, no, this country was not founded on Christian. It was founded on in God as you see it, as you worship it, as you know it. It wasn't this thing. And it's getting eerie that they're pushing Christianity so far that it's because we're not Christian anymore that the transgenders are doing this. And oh my God, we've got to build the churches back. We're seeing them build mega churches all around us.
Oh man, we've been
In
traveling
Boise, and
lately.
it's a Mormon state, and they're just massive, and they're getting angrier. And I actually talked to a guy the other day out of the Catholic Church, and he was saying that we need councils. And I was like, what kind of councils? And he says, well, our priests have a council. And all I could think of was inquisitions, that we got to kill anybody not like us. And he was very strong. And he goes, look what's happening to our world with these transgenders. And I'm going, oh God, we're going to blame them. And he's like, we've had councils then that decide for people. And I said, so you're saying people aren't intelligent enough to think for themselves? They need councils, they need inquisitions, they need rules and regulations. It made me vomit. It was one of my relatives. And I'm going, oh my God. And I did not back down. I just said, well, you're just entering another box, a miniature little box like this. I had councils too, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, we had governing bodies, this is how we interpret the scripture, this is how we're special and different. And he jumped back into that. He was spiritual and he went back, and he's got a head filled with Catholic ideals. It's okay to be Catholic if you want to be Catholic. But the idea that we cannot think for ourselves, that we need a council to interpret the Bible, interpret scripture, interpret things for us, and then come to conclusions, have a consensus, and then we conform. I'm like, are you shitting me? I was like, no, you're going backwards. And so I have to say, it was a miracle. It was a miracle. It was a miracle that I was able to step out of a infrastructure that I grew up in. All of us, like Angela said, grew up in planter boxes, and we were watered and nurtured and fed plant food, which was the ideals from our religious ideology, and we grew up in it. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I stepped out of that it collapsed. They were only belief systems. And I'm going, oh my God, it's these beliefs. It's the beliefs. We can believe we're all one, or we can believe we're all separate and hate each other. They're not made of anything.
Well,
and what I found was this, that there's a spiritual aspect to life that's beyond our thinking. And I love David Hawkins, Dr. David R. Hawkins. He talks about consciousness above 400. 400 is logic and reason. And I was telling people that if you're in logic and reason and you grew up a Jehovah's Witness, it would make no sense to go anywhere else, because God's name's Jehovah, right? YHWH tetragrammaton is in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. You don't know God if you don't pray to Jehovah, right? And so there would be no reason to go nowhere else. He's not a Trinity. I sit at the right hand of God. So those belief systems that were given to us were a box. They were a limitation, but there was something beyond that idea. I forget what I was going to say, but there was an idea those ideas, what I was going to say was, if you're into logic and reason, there's no way out. There's no way out. Let me just say this. Don't want to say that as an absolute, but it's very difficult to get out when you grew up in that, you were watered in that, you understand that it's an imprint, it's an entity, it's an idea that's birthed and come to life in your mind. It's almost impossible to get out. But what about the guy that grew up Mormon? Covenants and doctrines. What about the guy that's grown up Catholic? What about the guy who's grown up Christian? What about the person who's a Muslim? What about these people that are in all these belief systems? How do we bypass 400s? How do we bypass logic and reason? And Hawkins talks about the 500s, where the Holy Spirit is, where divine ideas,
Dan's
imagination.
talking about levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
And there's a scale that's there. It goes from 0 to 1,000, Christ being 1,000, Buddha even being 1,000. And then there's everything in between. So the 200 level is where you at least begin to go in a positive direction in a spiritual realm with positive magnetic field of energy in your body and all of that. Below the 200 is where you're, being dishonest, you're angry, you're bitter, you're resentful, you're hateful, you're apathetic, you're depressed. Those are the negative realms that actually are killing your body, bringing you in a lower attractive field. So at the 400 level, so 200, is in the line of integrity where you start going positive, but above that, jump up to 400 and it's great, logic and reason, but there's above that is love. And that's when things really start happening, where the magic starts happening, healing and spirit, really connection with God in a deep way. But 400 logic and reason, he's discussing that level is not going to get us where we need to go.
Yeah, and logic and reason is religion. Logic and reason is, this is how we believe and why. Go into a Mormon church and talk to them. They'll talk about covenants and doctrines. Didn't God always have a prophet? Would he have left us without a prophet today? Moroni is a prophet. The testimony of the Mormons is the Book of Mormon. They have their own shitload of ideology, but it's also separation. It's also us and them. So I realize now why Watchtower and religion wants to keep us in mind and belief systems and out of our heart. That's why there's so much against the heart. The heart's treacherous and desperate. Who can know it? Don't go into your heart, because you know why? Because the heart don't give a shit about belief systems. And that's what Jesus said. Go over and give him a hand up. I don't give a shit if he's a Samaritan or the Samaritan helped him. Go give him a hand up. The priests are walking over here. Love your enemies, and all these things. And love is what Hawkins talks about being 500. 500, he says, was where we kind of move into heart. We move out of mind. He was talking about Einstein and stuff being limited because of the infrastructure of belief in science and this. There's another field of energy beyond mind that we can tap into. And that's what he moved into. He even said your healing arts started in the 550s. So unconditional love, where you love people, it's all about misunderstanding. It's limiting beliefs. It's this and that. Like witnesses were a belief system that served me for a while, but then at a certain point, they became a limitation. They became, I don't know if I want to wait for the world end. I don't know if I trust these guys. I don't know. And then that all collapsed. And I said, holy shit, they're just beliefs. Why did I put so much weight on beliefs? But I think there's a lot of power in the heart. I'm moving more and more, and Angela too, into heart. We're not against anybody. We're not against people.
Yeah, we're speaking against the institution, what they're doing to the people, but the people themselves, like we were kept separate by the way that we were told to believe, and being that Dan and I were born into it, so. And Carrie Cake too, I think you were born into it, huh, Carrie Cake? So you just get stuck in that system of belief, but it is separating.
Yep. I was brought into Jehovah's Witnesses in 1973-ish. My mother got baptized in 1975, and before then we were Christian. So I celebrated the holidays and
wow.
And I really didn't know what religion my grandparents were precisely until later. They were just Christian, but they weren't sorry, it's too early for me. I woke up with, they're on, I need to get up.
You're so sweet.
Yeah, so they weren't proselytizing it. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha.
So
Mm.
it didn't matter what anybody's religion was. So I was very happy that I had that foundation.
No kidding.
Because later when I left, my heart was open to people in general. I think it always was. I had a very difficult time being judgmental and that the shunning and all that. I had a very difficult time with it. I think that's why I suffered so much with it. So, and that's why I left.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but what you're saying about the heart center, it's important to listen to what is coming from your heart. So I definitely agree with you guys.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
remember how much the emphasis was on the heart. You know, they were even telling you don't move into your heart with your animals. You remember that? You know, you can't love your animals. They don't feel nothing. That's ridiculous. That's insanity. You know, the watchdog, I think they even did something at the assembly about dogs don't
Yeah,
love you.
I think
That
it
little
was-
tail wagging don't mean nothing.
It was
That.
about 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did, especially when we were in, but I thought, oh my God, I see what they were doing. They have to keep us in the head. They have to keep us. This is what Jehovah says. This is what, listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. And what I'm realizing now is, as I've moved into heart, I never really loved anybody when I was a witness. I was very judgmental. You're dead. You know, if you didn't listen to what what Jehovah gave us in the way of the watchtower and awake, you're dead. And we might even get your house when you die very soon. And I didn't think about the fact that I was literally hoping for genocide. I use genocide. I'll tell you why I use genocide, because it's a horrible word. But I was actually hoping genocide would come soon, and that we would mop up the bodies and the birds would pick their bodies to death in the great feast, and that we'd have our paradise just for us few people, us few million people.
And get those nice fine homes that they had and all that.
And now I meet people and I can literally hug them and I can look them in the eye and say, I love you. It doesn't matter if their religion. I saw a guy this morning, he was in such pain over what's going on in the world. He was in tremendous pain. He's in a hotel a couple days a week. He doesn't want to go home. He's like an engineer. He's very, very smart in mathematics, and he sees no way out. He sees no way out for our world. He knows what's coming with energy. And
He's 40 years old.
he's 40 years old. And he said the younger generation's really mad. They can't buy a home. They can't do this. There's nothing going to be nothing for us and this and that. And I looked him in the eyes and I just said, you've given me some things to consider. I didn't want to argue with him. I didn't want to, I wouldn't classify him as a victim but I was like, he was into hopelessness, and hopelessness is a very low attractor field. And victim is a very low attractor field. You can stay in those your whole life. But I told him, I said, you don't have to operate in that. You don't have to operate. You can buy into all this stuff, into all this hopelessness and all this and all that, but you have a brain. You can work outside these systems. You can do this. And he has student loans and
a lot of them.
and he says, I have to pay this student loan and then this one's due and I have to pay this one. They're on some kind of time frame and they have interest on them.
Accumulating.
And my heart just broke for him, because I'm like, I understand you're a debt slave right now. My ex-wife is a debt slave. She owes over $100,000 in student loans, and the interest is kicked in, and it's like there's like no way out for them, and they're dealing in hopelessness. And Carrie, I wish I could have talked to him about entering the present moment and accepting his circumstances as they are momentarily, just accept what is, and just have this heart to heart, but I couldn't, because he was angry. He was angry. He didn't want to, and I even told him about my friend, he was in the CIA, and he said, Dan, think survival. Do what you got to do to survive in this world. Use your brain, be intelligent, look at what's going around in you. But my friend was talking to me, my CIA friend was talking to me about being in this present moment, dealing with what you got to deal with. But there was no faith. There was no belief in that he could get out. And he said the whole younger generation, and this is why I told him, you give me something to think about and to talk about. The whole generation that he was talking about is angry to the point of murder. They want to just murder those who have money and who have things. And And I said, that's really sad. And then I just thought about it for a minute, how innocent they were when they got into the student loans and, these debt systems. And my heart just broke for them. But if you don't have faith, and this is what made me think about the 500s, which were above thinking, which are above in the world. See, in the world, thinking may not get us out of this mess. You've heard this saying, Carrie Kay and Angela too, that the same thinking that got us into this is not the same thinking that's going to get us out of
Yes,
this.
yes.
It's the thinking that got us into this. It's the belief system. It's like I read the other day in a book I was reading. It said, look at what belief systems are done to our world. We're all into belief systems. We all know God. We all know Jesus. We all know. He said, but look at our world where it's at. Is it better? Is it better with all the beliefs and all the ideologies? So I guess my thought today and what I wanted to convey was to get to heart. How do we get to heart? I think I could be wrong. I think I may have touched him because in so many words, I told him I loved him and I'm sorry for what happened to him. That's why I walked over to him and shook his hand. He was very angry, wasn't he, Angela?
Yes, he was.
Very angry. And I looked him in the eye and I couldn't convince him anything because he was into science, logic, and reason, right? 400s.
He's got it tattooed on his arm.
He was just cycling in the attractor field of logic, reason, science don't prove this, but we're done for. But what I did, the only thing I could do in that moment was look him in the eye and shake his hand and said, you've given me some real things to think about, how much pain there is in the world right now and how much suffering there is and how much fear there is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, because he does blame the baby boomers, and so he's very angry. He said that you guys are the ones that elected this and that, and you allowed this and you allowed that. And, we were the parents that said, yeah, go ahead and get the school loans. You know what I'm saying? So he directly blames us who are actually living in homes with loans that now they can't get. And so all the blame they feel is we have done
We're
this.
part of it. Yeah.
So there's a division right there, division between those that they see that have what they want, and we can't get it. And you did it to us.
So here's what was
I was
interesting.
gonna say
Oh,
something.
go ahead, Carrie. Yeah.
I have a hard time. I as much as my heart goes out to somebody in that state of blaming others for the circumstances that they're in, that person, I guess, needs to hit rock bottom before they realize that it's them themselves that need to change their thinking into something positive so that they'll attract something more positive.
Like that.
I don't think it's fair to say that the boomers caused this or caused that, because right now we're in the process of trying to change things for student loan. I mean, the Biden-Harris administration just approved a $1.2 billion in loan forgiveness for the over 150,000 SAVE plan borrowers. So that's something positive, and I'm sure that if he would look into that, there's probably a possibility that he might qualify for that. So
Yes.
it's not all a lost cause. So, but I think it's more of a case of his own thinking, because he's in a depressed mode, and so he probably needs maybe therapy to help.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, he is an electrician, so he has a really good job. He's making good money.
Well, he's an engineer.
Yeah.
But what was interesting with the point and I agree with you 100%. And I saw the victim, I saw the, poor me, I saw all that. But what was interesting was the tiny injection of I understand. It was just, I understand. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And I said the same thing as you, Carrie Kay. I told him, I said, take advantage of the system. I said, I heard they're trying to do something about it. I said, stop. I said, get rid of your pride. Get rid of your damn pride. You know what I mean? Stop it. And I said, because your pride is going to keep you. If they forgive it, wouldn't that be wonderful? you're just bitching about that you owe this money, you can never pay it back, all these people. Even my ex was like, oh, you know, $100,000 in debt, oh, student loans. And I said, well, hey, they're talking about paying some of that off.
For female
I
teachers.
will not
teachers.
have them pay my, I'm like, are you stupid? Are you stupid? I really did. I hate to say it that bluntly, but I said, are you dumb? You're telling me you're a debt slave. You're telling me you're never going to get out of it. You're telling me, so this grace plan comes along. Wonderful, right? Some grace the loans aren't backed by shit. The loans aren't backed by nothing. Where did the money come from? Where did the interest come from? So if they say, we're going to pull away this thing, you know, blah, 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 you should be going, God, thank you. I'm free. Participate. Like you said, go in there, fill out the applications and go, please give me a chunk of it off anyway. Anything, I'll take anything and be grateful. But I told that guy, I said, you know what? I said, you know, for somebody who seems like a survivor, you're not really doing things to survive. You're really not. Why wouldn't you take advantage of this? I told him about the CIA guy that says he had to do all sorts of things to survive. He had to play a bomb. He had to play a this. He played, you know, he was telling me these roles he paid.
Yeah, just to
And
survive.
I loved it. And he's like, we can do that today.
King David did. Remember, he played the madman foaming at the mouth so that they wouldn't kill him.
Yeah.
And then he got out of there.
I told him, I know some creative ways to get out of debt. Trust me. And, you know, but he's integral. And I'm like, but you're saying it's all corrupt. But anyway, you know what I was going to say was, it was interesting because I did give him a little injection of, I'm sorry. I said what I said. I'm sorry because you're in pain, because the anger is overriding your thinking. The programs that you have of hopelessness are in the game, right? That's under the 200. But we can surrender those. But what I gave him was this much in it. It wasn't very much. It was just, I walked over and shook his hand and I said, you've given me some things to talk about. Not that I agree with him, but he did. He gave me some things to realize I'm not in a debt slave. I'm not in the loan system. You know what I mean? My ex tried to get my kids in the loan system, and thank God we've spared them and said, hey, try to get your own business, maybe do this, but don't enter that system of getting free money
Loans,
and, you know, debt to government. And they didn't. But that injection, and I'm not tooting my horn, I'm just saying my heart just went out to them, because those illusions that you're in all this stuff, and you know, you're hopeless. Like we could do that with witnesses, right? We were in the witnesses 40 years and I lost 40 years of my life. I hear this over and over. I was screwed. The witnesses screwed me over. I'm screwed. They took 40, you know, I see it all the time. And the guys drinking, a lot of them on the 6 screens. They're drunk and they're coming on there and they're mad at governing body. And it's not the reality. They have so much here in the heart. They have so much they can do and contribute and pull out of this ideal that they're in. But that injection of love, that the ability to see, and I just to validate them for just that one moment, I validated them that much. I just said, you know, man, you gave me some things to think about, because I really wasn't fully aware of the amount of pain. My daughter pays $2,400 a month for her apartment, 2-bedroom, and she pays $400 every time her dog shits, because they take a DNA test, and they took a DNA test of her dog shit
apartment.
And so if her dog takes a dump and she don't pick up everything, if they pick up a stool somewhere and they test it, they charge her $400. So she's been paying $3,000 a month for an apartment.
Yeah.
And she's in slavery, you know what I mean? In a sense, right? She goes to the pool and they take a picture of her. She had a beer, $250.
She's 26 years old.
And I forget why I was saying all that.
Debt slaves.
And it's interesting. They have the solution, like her husband's father is very wealthy and he wants to buy him a home and pay cash for it. Oh, they won't have it. You know, pride, you know, no, we won't take nothing. We'll live like this. So her husband's on a treadmill and, you know, just drinking and, you know, working and, you know, coming home, and they don't want to do anything. And anyway, I forget what the main point I was bringing about that, but
it's just trying to come up with a solution, and you have compassion, you have understanding, but yet, you know.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a window, because the guy was even extreme. He wanted to argue with Angela real heavily this morning. And I just interjected, you know, we had to go, but Anyway, but what was interesting was that little comment was, hey, man, I thank you for sharing with me. I understand that pain's pretty deep, and I see what you're saying. Yeah, that there's a lot of confusion. There's doesn't seem to be a way out. And we parted, and I shook his hand. And me and Angela run up the stairs, and they were having some elevator problems the other day. A whole bunch of people got in and crammed up. We're in a hotel in Denver, and anyway, we run upstairs, and he goes, "Wow, you guys ran up the stairs?" And we go, "Yeah, we ran up. It was only
It's 4 levels.
four flights,
Mhm.
I said, "Yeah, it keeps in shape." And anyway, he
He's
he
it's
said
one door over
he
from
looked over
us.
and he says, "You don't look a day over 30." And because we told him we were retired, we're 65, we're semi-retired. And anyway, but he made that nice gesture. And I think that might be the starting point. And not that we have to move into agreement, but just to say we understand. I mean, they were stabbing Jesus through, and he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do." Yeah, Paul, he was on the road and he had some sand thrown in his eyes. He was blinded for a moment, which I think is esoteric in the sense of that he thought about what he was doing. What the hell am I doing? Like us as witnesses, why are we waiting for the world to end? We're supposed to be the light of the world, not waiting for the world to end in genocide. But I think there's so much beyond belief systems. I think belief systems are hindering us now. And the religions, a lot of them are enforcing belief systems. Politics are enforcing belief systems. You have to hate the Democrats. You have to hate those greedy conservatives. You have to, and these belief systems are destroying us. So
Yeah, we have to come to the standpoint of the other person. That, so I was glad I had the opportunity this morning with this 40-year-old man who's educated and has a good job, because we have to listen. That's step number one to come to any conclusion. We have to come to the standpoint of understanding the other side to the best of our ability, and everyone opening to let's discuss, let's talk about things, not just that you're angry. We're not going to get anywhere with that in our hearts, in our minds. We gotta have roundtable. We have to have discussion. We have to try to come to the understanding of the other person's point of view. If we're going to get anywhere at all to this oneness, we got to start talking.
and that's what I wanted to say too, with what you were saying. We have to want it. And I think it's sad. It seems like the only thing that brings people together is tragedy. It seems like it's pain and suffering. What's it going to take? A nuke? Is it going to take a nuke and a Muslim to pull you up and and do resuscitation on you or give you some of his water? What is it going to take for us to begin to start to break down this? I don't know. There's so many people that want control of us. There's so many people that want to keep us separated. And I think we are awakening. I know people are praying. They believe the company of heaven is helping us. But I know this, that you've got to want change. You've got to want oneness. And there was a time I didn't. There was a time for 40 years I didn't want oneness. I only wanted us. I only wanted our religion. So do you have any ideas, Carrie? Any thoughts on
or solutions
on maybe just an interjection of something? I just think willingness. I think we have to want. I don't know. I lived in separation from everybody my whole life. I lived for 40 years thinking
Yeah, I think everybody has their own decisions to make on their spiritual or religious path. I think it's a learning experience. Oh, this one's not for me, and move on to the next. I think there's hope in the younger generation that I have seen. I've gone into some some Facebook groups where more millennials like coming out of cults, and they're very helpful with each other, and offering suggestions on different books to read and different places to go searching, and it's been very refreshing.
Yes.
Refreshing to see, like, even though they're in a hard spots, they've been able to get the tools to come together and help one another. So that's something that I've seen lately. I've been involved in a group where we're reading a book each month. And the first book that we read was, and these are all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow.
The first one we read was Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Wow.
Okay.
That one was a really good book because it's on the hero's journey. And if you put yourself in that place as the hero of your own story, then you can kind of like break down what's happening in your own life and go, oh, okay, I'm on this journey. So what's going to happen next? Kind of like the Star Wars trilogy or the movie The Matrix. You're uncomfortable in your situation, and so you leave and you go out and your family hates you because you've left the organization. Go out and you meet new people, you meet a mentor, you start learning. Then when you come back, you have all this knowledge. So what are you going to do with it when you get it? You come back to help other people. So that was the first book. Then the second book we did, and we just did our Zoom. It was on God is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Book. Oh my God, great book. Even though he's an atheist, but yet he had very interesting things to say about religion and doctrine in general. If you can get past the name of the book, God is Not Great.
I had the book. I think I read some of it.
Yeah,
Good
you
book.
get to the last couple chapters, and he's really kind of trying to help people realize that you must think for yourself. And he talked a lot about a new enlightenment. And what did our founding fathers do for the country? What were they thinking? So he starts to talk about them. And then he goes into the different philosophers and what they left us. And it doesn't mean you can't not believe in God. He really actually turned it into that spark or the divine within. And I thought that was really interesting because, yeah, years ago, I probably would have never caught on to that, but I caught on to it now. And so it's a great book. Next one, we're going to do a band book. So a band book, something that's
a band book. Okay, got ya.
BANNED. So I'm not sure if it's going to be Lord of the Flies or if it's going to be a couple other ones that we nominated, but yeah, I think for people who are having trouble, they should find their people.
Yeah.
Find the people that they can like bounce off on and help each other, to lean on each other. The ones that are having trouble, I kind of will go back to the hero's journey of where the hero actually has to go through a period of darkness before they see the light. So I think that when you came across that young gentleman today, he might be in that part of his journey where he has to hit rock bottom. He has to go into the darkness before he sees the light. And maybe 6 months from now, or he learns something, he finds his mentor. It could be a book, it could be a television show, it could be a movie, it could be a person that he would learn or she would learn from that person and then realize, oh, okay, and might have a change of mind and take that first step out of that darkness and move forward, and they say, okay, what did I learn from being in that dark place?
Yeah, kind of like you did, Carrie Kay, where you started going in that, what is that, your dining room every night after night for a month or something. Wasn't that you did that, and then everything changed?
In my what room?
I don't know, some room that you chose, and every night you went into spend lots of hours in that private room.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I did that too.
Yeah,
I have my sanctuary, my sanctum, my area where I just go in and just do my own meditation and think. And I notice that even now, if I don't go into my own space, I feel a little scattered. It's like, oh, I need to like just chill and be silent.
Did you say you had a crisis of conscience type of thing one time where you were so you were in such a dark place that you just went into this room as much as you can, like most of the time of every day, and spend a
Yeah.
lot of time for I remember how long it was, seemed like it was a month or something, where you spent every opportunity alone in that room, you know?
I think we had that discussion a long time
Yeah, a
ago.
long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when I was in that dark place, it was, I
And
needed to
everything
be alone.
changed.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything changed.
everything did change. I did a lot of praying. I guess you could call it praying.
Yeah,
Some people, that inner dialogue you have,
yeah, yeah.
some people just put a different title on it, meditation.
Mhm.
And then finally, you'll get that eureka moment.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool that that happened to you. See, he might do that too, that guy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and have a dark, because he obviously knew about the
Yeah, I
Bible.
think he's ready to crash.
I think
He's,
yes. Yeah.
he's flying pretty low.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's like when you're talking about, people having to die and, this and that.
We're having to live at the hotel instead of at your home. He's just 2 blocks away.
Yeah, and it
It
was
sounds
very,
like he's in some type of a crisis. He needs help
I
of some
agree.
sort.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah, and he's very, very angry at a high level. And I
Um,
mean, he was able to at least talk a little bit peaceful to us, but yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because a lot of people are talking about this grand awakening we're going to have and this and that. I don't know that it's going to be so quick. I don't know that it would be a miracle if everybody just woke up. Yeah, they're talking about, in the spiritual communities, they're talking about this is a great awakening, as if in the next couple of years the whole world's eyes are just going to pop open and they're going to be awake. And I don't know. I
I, I would, I would not think that it would happen like that. I think that maybe more and more people will have more of an awakening
Yeah,
because we have technology and stuff. But I think I think
yeah,
that's out
I
there
agree.
because not everyone has the dynamics or the setup for that to happen. I mean, I would be kind of a scary thought if all of a sudden
I
everybody
know.
had an
I
awakening,
know a lot of people that got
realized
everything
what was
bet on.
happening.
I know there's a lot of people that got everything bet on it, and they're putting all their energy into it, and their prayers and meditation and their whole idea. Everything's, I could see everything they have, they're putting into these next year, this year, that there's going to be this breakthrough. And I just feel kind of sorry for them, because it's what we want, it's what we hope for, that we'd wake up and we'd all realize that we're all the same. And but the possibility of it, I just, I like what you said, like, find your community, do what you can do in your arena of influence with the people you have. You bring your teachings into that space where you're at on Facebook or whatever group it is, the book reading. And that affects those people. It's working. Everybody's working. You're receiving things from them. You're interjecting your idea. And I think you're right.
I love that
We've,
idea,
we've talked about that what we have to work with. Like this week, we'll be with her family, and they have certain ideals about religion and Sabbath, and we're going to have to work with that and do this back and forth. You know what I mean? And we just have to work we have to work. We're working, so we have to work within the confines of the people that we're engaged with now, and
Yeah.
find our communities. We were talking on Six Screens last night. There was a lot of people like, what do we do now? We're out. Well, it's like, you've got to take responsibility. You've got to find your communities. You can't be victims. You can't just sit. So many of them are, man, I'll tell you, a couple of them are very hopeless. Oh, they did this, they did that. I'm so alone now. And it's like, you have to
True.
find a community. You have to, you were a part of a community that did everything for you. You didn't have to think. You didn't have to do anything but show up and sit in a chair and get attaboys for showing up and doing what they wanted to do. Now that's all gone. It's wiped out from me. So, so the guy last night, his name, I think it was Josh. I don't know if you listened, but we all started talking about reinventing yourself, because he was asking, what do we do now? I've had my whole life in this thing. What do we do now? And did you see the guy with the drums? He was
I saw part. I was like, I listened to the news last night.
Wow.
Yeah, I missed it
That was
all.
it. I missed the rest of the show.
I got you. I tuned in after.
I got
I
beat
tuned in to,
18.
yeah, 10 minutes of Josh is all I heard at the end, and we were able to comment.
Okay.
But that was
Okay.
all we heard. We missed the news. But anyway,
Well, I was just gonna say, there's all kinds of cult survivor networks out there. And, one that's good for my church that I grew up in is called Cult Survivors from Worldwide Church of God and their offshoots. And they're a real open group. They have 1.3 thousand members, 1,300 members. And some of them are some of them are real healthy and some of them are not healthy. But
Mhm.
some of them are just so wonderful because you can share what's going on, the pain that you're going through, and asking for support, asking for thoughts, asking for ideas, how to handle the situation. And people are just wonderful and they'll really help you. So, I think if you just put the word cult in there and whatever words might come to your mind and start looking for some of these wonderful groups, there's so many out there, and get some of the help that you need, because we all do need it. And like you said, Carrie Kay, it's like one day it's your turn to be depressed and down and you don't know what to do with this situation with your mother or whatever. And then people will say, well, here's how to look at it in my point of view. And then you're like, you're right. I could do that, or I could do that. And you get ideas. You don't feel alone. You feel like you got a family, even when you don't have a family. This becomes your family. And I love it. I really, really love it. And whenever I get free time, I go in and I just try to lend my support and just give my ideas, my support, because man, some people have been so dang abused badly, and it's so normal to them. And the solutions don't come when you're in the midst of high trauma. Your brain just stops working. It's closed down. It's numb. And your heart's numb and cold, and you don't know what to do, and you can't think straight. That's where we need each other, and that's where we can be there for each other. So I love your idea of finding your group. And so for anybody who doesn't know, you just go in your browser box on your iPhone or on your computer, and you just type in, whatever it is, a group. Just put the word group in there, and then then put the word cult or XJW or whatever the trauma, sexual abuse and recovery and groups, and put the and word between the words, and it'll pop up groups that will fit your needs. And in Facebook, you go into Facebook, your Facebook page, you hit the little at the very top, this magnifying glass, and then you put in the words that you're searching for, like I just said, and up pops some groups. Yeah. And then you join those groups, and sometimes they ask you questions like, why do you want to join? And, just what they want to know about you. And then you answer those questions, and then they'll say, not all the time, but sometimes once in a while, they'll ask you questions because they don't want crazy people in there. They want people who are serious. And so they get to decide who comes in and who doesn't. But then you found some really great people that you can relate to, and it's really awesome. So, and you can help too. You feel useful. It feels good to feel useful.
Yeah.
You feel like you have a purpose. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
so guys, we just wanted to throw that out today. We have to run. We gotta run a couple errands. We're in a hotel and we're trying to do business here and everything, but we just wanted to, just throw this out for consideration. And we really appreciate Terry Kay you coming on and
Yes.
making those suggestions, and it's all part of it.
Very.
Everything is part of it. Understanding people, letting people hit bottom, group consciousness, getting together in groups, in the multitude of counselors, there's an answer. And so I think we just do the best we can where we're at. And
Start engaging in conversation, because we're not going to get anything done if we're all holding everything in. We've got to start learning how to communicate, say our feelings, to have discussion with younger people, see where they're coming from, understanding them understanding us.
any final thoughts, Carrie Kay?
Thank you for sending me the link, and it was lovely to see you guys. It's been too long.
I know.
I mean, we've been
Yeah.
appreciating your art. I love
Yes,
that
I
last
know.
little angelic woman you have wrapped in the robe. That's really quite a
All
painting.
of it's
I
really
love it.
beautiful.
All your work is
Very
amazing.
good.
And it's
very-
evidence what you can do when you're not a victim, when you say, I'm going to take my life and find out what gifts I have, and use them, because those gifts, like paintings, speak to you. music speaks to you. You know, I don't know, you ever heard of Rudolf Steiner? I'm sure you have.
Yes.
You know, he was, I mean, this is a crazy thought, but I read something in one of his books the other day. I got one of his very old books. And he said that music could exorcise a demon out of somebody. You know, the power of music could totally, instead of saying exorcise a demon, that's what it said.
If that's what he said.
But it could totally
I
open
agree.
you up. That's why they use music in the beginning of services, you know, church services. They say without the music, they wouldn't be a service because the music puts everybody in a receptive state and opens their heart.
That's right.
And art does too. Your art speaks, like that rose cross
Yes,
there, you know,
yes.
speaks to me.
I mean,
You know, is that,
Well,
yeah,
and
that
music-
is I painted that. It's a replica of Robert Flood's rose.
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Rose gives it's that rosa mil apipas, the rose gives the bees honey. Is
Ah.
what it means in Latin. But it's the rosy cross, yeah.
I love
It's,
it.
you know, and it speaks to the soul. The other picture speaks to the soul. It speaks of a time period. It speaks to a different type of, you know, culture, the one to the other side of you.
That one's full
Yeah.
of that one is full of allegory and symbolism.
Yes, I know it is. I've seen it
Yeah,
many times.
yeah.
I used to have that on my desk years
Wow.
ago when I was a Mason. It was on the front of one of our deals in the Scottish Rite,
Mhm.
82nd degree. That was one of the Roasted Cross was one. Then it was, I forget which one I was in now. What the hell was I on? I
Like
forget.
Templar and-
Yeah, it was, I forget. No,
He's not in the Masons anymore.
no,
So
but those were definitely symbols we had in there. And
And I have my
Yeah.
cat.
I know you did a great job with it, by the way. It almost
Thank
looked
you.
like exact. I was looking at it like, wow.
you know, it's amazing how many gifts that actually touch people. You know, like I was getting my hands on my nails done the other day. You know how they massage your hands after they're done, you know? Well, I had worked really, really hard with my hands this last week and I was exhausted. And the very next morning, I mean, having my nails redone and so I started crying when she was massaging my hands. And I thought, I wonder when she does my other hand, if I'll start crying then too, you know? Sure enough, she gets done and I cried literally, I couldn't stop the tears. And we had the most incredible love exchange. And you know, I mean, just think of that, a massage. And I don't know if anybody's ever had a massage in the body where they got to a certain point, maybe on your interior of your legs or something, and you suddenly started crying because we hold memories in these little pockets in our bodies, and they will cause you to, when they're released because of massage, you can cry. You don't even know why you're crying, but it might have had to do with the sexual abuse that happened to you or something. Well, my hands for rubbing, massaging lovingly my hands made me cry. And I knew it was a release. And anyway, we had a wonderful hug exchange and everything. She's a Vietnamese woman. And we had just such an interesting talk. But anyway, every gift is important and we can't underestimate it, you know, and but
Okay.
we're not going to flow in those giftings if we're bound up in our minds and if we have lots of judgment towards each other and if we are bound up in belief systems that are not good for us and all these kind of things that clog up the connection with the divine and the presence of God, we clog it up. So we got to get in quiet spaces, quiet moments, sitting alone, being outside, being by the river, sitting in the morning early, being quiet, and just enjoy what's all around you, the bird flittering and the sun popping between the clouds or the air and whatever you see. It is pure God in my way of looking at it. It's God's creation meant to open us. And so we got to give that time to ourselves of like a gift, because that becomes a gift then to others because we received. But if we don't receive, then creativity is not going to come out of us. It just is going to be bound up. So Carrie Kay's loosened and she's flowing and you're seeing tons of artwork coming out of her all the time. She's writing books, doing all kinds of amazing things because she's letting the flow of presence and God and love and peace and lack of judgment, all of that, it has to happen for flow. And flow makes creativity, which makes love, which makes the world change and changes everything. So don't underestimate your gifts. Just you got to get more quiet and more peaceful. And I'm trying to do that and more.
Be the conduit for the divine spark.
Yes, amen,
Yes.
sister.
Yes. You know, I held out my hands for the lady to massage and she said, just sit in the machine, and she turned on the machine like, you get it back.
Yeah, you should see his hands though. They're all like
My hand's
stained.
next, and she's like, no,
We-
only your wife, you know, you, let me turn the machine on, just lay back and put your feet in the water,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Okay,
hands are like
I'm kidding, I'm
almost-
kidding.
his
She
hands
did
are-
turn on the vibrating machine that where you sit in for the back, you know. I saw Angela over there crying, you know, I'm like, oh.
Yes, he looked at his fingernails. See, okay, so turn me this way. See all the stain in his finger. Uh-oh, wrong way. See
Oh,
this-
yeah.
Okay, so you think any lady wants to work on that? It's gonna take her about 5 hours to do one hand.
She came over and gave me these little files, these little sponges, and she goes, here, you do this, you do this. I said, okay. I said, you don't want to charge me and clean my hands? And she goes, no. I kill you first, you know?
Anyway.
But anyway, we gotta
Okay, we gotta
run.
go. We love you, Carrie.
All right.
Love you too, guys. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Have a good day. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you. You guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.